All right. So, hello and welcome. I am Lene Willis, and I am hoping to do a quick review of Love is Blind,
All right.
season 8.
So, hello and
Okay, sorry. There's feedback, and I'm going to wait for that to cancel itself out. Give me 1 second. I did not remember to mute this before I got started. Okay, cool. All right. So, we are already on season 8 of Love is Blind US, and I'm actually a little bit impressed by the casting this time. I know that most of it is, I don't want to say that a lot of it is scripted. I know that there are some things that are produced, highly produced, that makes it watchable, bingeable TV. But if you're going to go on a show like Love is Blind, here or are the top questions I would say that you would want to ask. And honestly speaking, you can probably use these same questions in your regular dating life, because while you may be pressed for time if you're in a pod, if you're spending time dating, especially at a later age, like say you're in your 30s, 40s, and you're dating at a later age, there are some things that you just want to figure out on the front end versus waiting um, for the relationship to go on for a year or two before asking. So now, I do not have the names of the individuals that asked the specific questions. So I'm just going to kind of rattle them off just off of what I wrote down in my little handy dandy notes. All right. So the first thing, great question. It was, how did your parents teach you love? And what I love about this question is that it opens the person up to reaching back and trying to recall, but what were the things that my parents did that I saw that I admired about their relationship that I want to bring into my relationship? Because oftentimes we mimic the love around us from our childhood, the love that was shown to us, the love that was shown around us in the current relationships that we're looking at. Oftentimes, a lot of what we've experienced in childhood, it informs our attachment style, so to speak, which brings me to this other handy question that someone else asked, which was, and I'm skipping here, but someone asked, what is your attachment style in a relationship? Like, do you even know? And listen, if you do not know your attachment style, don't like feel bad about it. I do have on my website lpctservices.com, and I'll probably post the link down once I'm finished with this chat. There is in the resource tab, I have an attachment style guideline, and above that attachment style guideline is an attachment style quiz that you can take, and it helps you with assessing, identifying your attachment style. And then right below it, it explains each attachment style from secure to anxiety, avoidant, and then disorganized attachment style. So definitely, if you don't know it, you can find it out. It's not a big deal. You're not going to pass out or anything, but it's definitely good information to know. And the scene that it was brought up in, this couple actually ended up not becoming engaged. And to be honest, I'm glad that they did not, because I think that he saw very early on. And of course, I don't know his name because y'all know I don't remember these people's names, right? Um, so starting to get better. I should have probably wrote it down in my notes. But anyway, so he had asked her, the lady that he was courting, what her attachment style was, and she said her attachment style is avoidant. And he mentioned that his attachment style is anxious style. And attachment styles, anxiety, anxious and avoidant are like they clash, right? So essentially, you have someone who is trying to like cling in some ways, looking after, seeking after love and affection, and because they don't want to be abandoned. And then you have the avoidant person who it tries to end the relationship before they experience rejection. And so the way that they handle problems is to just try to be independent and to step away from their partners as opposed to working towards resolving the problem within the relationship. It's not a good fit. He saw it immediately. She kept saying that she's not an avoidant anymore, but everything that she said, it kept really demonstrating that the characteristics of avoidant attachment style was still within her. And so he knew that it wasn't going to be a good fit. And I'm glad. I'm happy for him. Um, I don't know, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. 'Cause it keeps teasing that, all the different cast members or whatever, they're gonna be able to get together at some point at some social event. And that's not coming out until the 28th. Today's the 26th. So we've got 2 more days to go. All right. So next set of questions that I thought were really, really the top questions I saw in the pods this season. What is your sibling situation? Like, it's really important to have a good sense of what does this potential partner think about their siblings? How do they feel about that relationship? How the relationship dynamics with their siblings will shift once a partner has been introduced, right, to the family. And then how that individual will be treated by that sibling. So that was an awesome question. Another question that I liked, we talked about religion was the comment that was made. I want to hear more about that. So it was a little bit more of a statement. It wasn't like, tell me more about how you feel about religion, but it's important in that setting again to talk about those taboo, so to speak, subjects. So you heard taboo things like religion, politics, sex, like all these things, definitely important. Um, what are you like in a conflict? Whew, that I forgot who asked that question. A plus plus plus. Okay, you got an A plus for me. What are you like in a conflict? How do you express yourself and what do you do? That was kind of like maybe not verbatim what she said, but I believe it was Lauren, I think her name is. I'm not sure. The lady who was connected to Dave. We're going to talk about all these different couplings at another point, but I just want to talk about the pod questions. That was a great question. The reason why it's imperative to ask a question like that for someone that you're dating is because you want to get a sense of how do they handle conflict in a pressured moment, and does it mesh or fit well with your personality and how you respond to conflict. Sometimes some people want to flesh out concerns immediately, while other people would prefer to sweep things under the rug or to resolve it within themselves, um, which means that they come to some conclusion on their own without that person that they're in conflict with. But it leaves the other person in a very muddy situation, right? They don't really know whether they're coming or going or how their partner is feeling about it because that partner has resolved it on their own, which is kind of unfair, right? However, if this is how you are, it's still good to know. And then you can determine if this is the poison that you want to pick, if you're choosing to get married to this individual, for instance. All right, moving on. I mentioned the comment about the political beliefs. Specifically, what was asked was, what are your political beliefs? What do you know about Black Lives Matter? Now, I can see the couple in my head and the conversation that they had that day. And what I loved about that question is because she asked those questions coming from her experience, and she brought up George Floyd and everything that happened in Minneapolis, because the casting and everything occurred in Minneapolis. And she also has a sister who identifies as lesbian. And it was important for her to ask the question about religion and these political beliefs because she wanted to be with someone who actually cared, who gives AF, right? Essentially. And his response was the most rinky-dink response I think I had ever seen. I don't know if he intended it to be that way. Again, I don't know how much of it was produced, and how much of his response didn't really quite make it. But as evidenced by them later being in a setting with his friends, he has a really close friend who does identify as a lesbian, and then he has a friend that identifies as agnostic, and he considers himself to be very religious. And the young lady that he proposed to, she's not overly religious, but she's open. And I think that's the most that you can ask for in a time in a situation like that where you mesh on all these different levels, but you have to kind of wait and see how other things would actually work in the real world. And I'm glad that they had the opportunity to do so. But that question again about Black Lives Matter, he seemed very indifferent. And the reality is, I think his response was, I just don't want to be involved. I just don't want to get into the middle of that. I just rather just kind of like not, say anything about it or speak to it or whatever it is. And the reality is, can you be with someone who is indifferent about issues that are important to you? Now, this young lady, she's not Black. Um, but it's a cause that's important to her. And she felt it strongly in her heart. It was really giving her some trepidation. And she'd spoken to one of the other young ladies about it, who is either mixed or Black. And I can't remember exactly, to be honest. But she spoke with one of the young ladies, and the young lady said, well, just give him an opportunity. This was probably the first opportunity and the first chance he got to be with someone who actually cares about Black Lives Matter. So he never had to think about it. And so you're exposing him to this situation and to this cause from a standpoint in that you're supporting it. So maybe he may be more open to it, maybe just more open to learning more about it and seeing what ways he can um, help and support the cause as well. So I like that she did that. I think openness is the key, but I think it would be important to see how that support, like what that actually translate to into their relationship. But definitely an awesome question, young lady. Um, Someone else asked, what does love mean to you? And I thought that that was a phenomenal question because as individuals with our individual experiences, we have different ideas of what love is, how it should be experienced, um, what our expectations are around it, what our responsibilities are around love. And I think it's important to ask that because you want to get a sense, well, how does this person that I'm claiming to love, how are they actually going to show me love? What are they going to expect from me? And what can I expect of them? What do they believe are their responsibilities as a person who is in love with someone else? And what does that look like? Right? Oh my gosh, that was a really good question. Um, Another question that I really liked, again, best questions, was how do I know that you actually care about me or only care now after you've learned your other connection chose someone else? Now, this particular question is important for this situation, right? You have love triangles where there may be two young ladies that like the same guy, and he's going back and forth. And one moment he says, girl A is the number one. And the next moment, he says girl B is the number one. And it just kind of keeps flipping as he continues to spend time with each of the young ladies. How do you really know? I think that's a good question. So if you do ever find yourself being in a position where you're dating in the outside world, even, and you learn that whomever you're dating is also simultaneously dating other people, how do you know that he actually chose you because of you as opposed to someone else that he was dating decided, nah, you're not it for me. And so he felt, oh, well, she's the next best thing. So I'm gonna go ahead and deal with her because I don't want to be alone. How do you know? Right? You may not ever know unless that person is completely candid with you and honest with you. Sometimes you don't even know whom the person you're dating, who else they may be dating, if at all, because sometimes people aren't even honest about that much. But you definitely need to be honest. If you know that you're just dating multiple people, then just say that I'm dating multiple people. Um, but the other low-key question I put on here that I think is a pretty awesome question is, are you telling everyone this? Like the same stuff that you're telling me, is this exactly what you're saying to someone else? And is this a game like that you're running on me? Because sometimes you know what I'm talking about. You go on dates with certain people and they sound like they have it all together. They say all the right things. They do all the right things. It just makes you feel like, does this person actually care about me? Or is this just who they are? Are they responding this way to everyone? Are they love bombing me? And you just got to ask that question because you just never know. And I have another question on here um, that I didn't say that I think might be important. And I think maybe just in the parameters again of Love is Blind, and that is, what was your sister's advice for you coming on Love is Blind? So I think it was based, I think maybe Dave, he has a really strong relationship with his sister. He mentioned his sister so many times. I was starting to question what's going on with him and his sister, low key. But um I said sister, but really it could be what was your mom's advice? What was your insert other significant person in your life's name here advice when it comes to you coming on to Love is Blind? Now, I think that's an important question because you want to kind of get a sense of what family members are expecting and what they're thinking, what they're feeling about the situation, because it might make you learn just a little bit more about the person themselves and how much they weigh that other person's input, how much they value that person's input, and how much of that person's input you're going to then be dealing with in your relationship later on. If they keep talking about a particular person, this person might be of value to them, which is fine, but it's good to kind of get a sense of, well, what does this person say? How does this person feel? And that's about it. If you heard any other good questions that you did not hear me mention, please go ahead and add it below. I want to hear all the feedback. But for right now, we're good. Thank you for watching and have a good one.